Protecting a source is paramount for me. If I can't report a story without keeping a source safe, I'm not going to report the story.
But what is clear now is that it doesn't necessarily require a reporter to reveal the sources.
The United States government is collecting huge amounts of information, electronic records of emails, phone calls, actual chat conversations, photographs. Journalists are afraid that there's a record of their communications, of their interaction, and that that's going to feed into a leak investigation or a leak prosecution.
What we found out through the Snowden disclosures is that the United States government is collecting all of our metadata, which shows who your social and professional networks are, who your connections are, where you are at a particular time, where perhaps a source is. They don't need to know what you were talking about. They've got enough to be able to go to your source and say, why were you talking to this journalist?
A lot of officials won't even talk about unclassified things. They won't wave you off a story. They won't confirm an unclassified detail because it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the risk.
I think anybody who is a good reporter now has to think about how do you contact somebody without leaving, electronic crumbs, a trail of crumbs behind you that sort of directs potential investigators to your source.
Now, when it comes to protecting a source, I've had to teach myself. Using an encryption engine, this kind of thing, I don't take my iPhone with me when I go to meet a source. Unless you take the battery out, you can still be tracked. I was leaked classified intelligence community documents last year that cataloged quite a few years of U.S. drone strikes in Pakistan. I went to considerable lengths to protect my source, and I'm not going to tell you what I did.
We sometimes feel, or I feel at least, like you're operating like somebody in the mafia. You've got to go around with a bag full of quarters, and if you can find a payphone, use it, or use like drug dealers use, throwaway burner phones. These are all the steps that we have to take to get rid of an electronic trail. To have to take those kind of steps, makes journalists feel like we're criminals and like we're doing something wrong. And I don't think we are. I think we're providing a useful service to Americans to know what's going on in their government and what's happening.
We've taken for granted for a very long time the work of these journalists in getting to us information about what the government is doing. If we allow the government to restrict the way journalists work and interact with their sources, we will start to see less information about the government and therefore be less able to hold the government accountable.